right, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today to learn how to choose your ideal study abroad program. So just a few things before we start. I put a Google form in the chat, and if you don't mind just filling that out and letting us know you're here, that would be awesome. For those of you who are planning scholars and are attending this as one of your required workshops, definitely make sure that you fill that out so that we can track your attendance. And then for those of you as well who want to participate in the raffle at the end of the semester, make sure that you are filling that form out. So, a few things that just wanted to start out with an agenda, a few things that we're going to go over today. We'll do a quick update on COVID-19 and study abroad because I know a lot of you are going to have questions about that. We'll talk about eligibility for study abroad programs, academics and how to choose a program that aligns with your major, location, timing of when you study abroad, housing, finances and costs, special circumstances, and then we'll wrap up with next steps. Feel free to use the chat at any point today if you have any questions. We'll respond to questions as they come in, both over the chat and live. And then we'll also have the opportunity at the end as well if you want to turn on your camera, if you want to turn on your microphone and ask questions live at the end, we can do that as well. So one thing that I just wanted to share with you all again before we get started is throughout this presentation, we're going to refer to some pages on our websites and some resources that we have that are really good and that can help really guide you through choosing a study abroad program. So I actually put this together in a Google Doc so that you have all of the links there. So feel free to check out these web pages, bookmark that page, and just use that for your own reference as you are looking to plan your future study abroad program. So check that out and then let us know if you have any questions. So getting started, we'll do a quick introduction. So my name is Lindsay and I work with marketing and recruitment in the study abroad office. But I will let Jacob go ahead and introduce himself and talk a little bit more about his study abroad program that's a little bit more exciting.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Jacob. I am currently a senior studying digital culture. I studied abroad the entire fall semester of my sophomore year, and I went to Wellington, New Zealand with the Victoria University in Wellington. I went with ISA on a partnership program, which you'll hear a little bit more about, as well as just I had a great time. I was able to discover my passions, really figure out what I was interested in. I met a lot of awesome people, got really immersed in the culture, and I made a ton of friends, and it was awesome. So I hope we can set up the same sort of experience for all of you.
All right, so if you have any questions for Jacob or if you want to hear more about his experience, feel free to ask those questions and we can spend more time talking about that as well. But really briefly, because I know that you all are probably concerned about this and have questions if we're even running study abroad programs due to COVID-19. So the answer programs in spring, summer, and fall 2021, as well as in the future into 2022 for those of you that are planning a little bit farther ahead. We're optimistic that we'll be able to run programs, but we also are very cautious about it, and we know that there's a lot of moving pieces and we can't make any guarantees. So programs are accepting applications, and our health and safety team is keeping an eye on the situation and evaluating every country that we offer programs to make sure that we're making good decisions about programs that are going or if they need to be canceled. If you do choose to apply for a program, you do have to review and accept an acknowledgement of COVID-19 health, safety, and security. So you're given all of that information before you commit to a study abroad program. If you're curious about a specific program, reach out to the international coordinator of that program. And then we also have an FAQ page that we are updating as we have new developments, and that is on our website and is also linked in that resource document there. All right,
So
now,
yeah,
go
we're going to
ahead.
go ahead and talk about the eligibility requirements for all of our programs. So yeah, the first thing that you need to know is that all of our programs have a cumulative GPA requirement of at least a 2.0 or higher. And then you also must be a degree seeking student at ASU. So we like to, make sure we're sending our students abroad and not like their best friends or whatever. And then you also have to be in good standing with our code of conduct. We like to make sure that we're sending students abroad who will represent our university in the best way possible. And then also keep in mind that some other requirements do exist. They do exist, but they're not like super common. And those would be like prerequisite courses or foreign language proficiency requirements. We'll show you where you can find those sort of requirements that show up. And then some of our programs will also have major requirements as well as class requirements. But like I said, these are definitely less common, but they do exist, whereas all of our programs do require those like first three things on that list. Some questions to consider when thinking about eligibility are definitely like, do I meet the requirements? Can I even study abroad? I would like to let you know that the earliest you can study abroad if you are a freshman is going to be spring break. And that is also with the current limitations of like COVID-19, there are some definitely extra limitations in place. And then also considered, have you researched like the admission requirements of like this specific program that you're interested in, as well as are there any other prerequisites that you might have to deal with? For example, the program that I went on was for sophomores only, but I applied when I was a freshman, but I was able to kind of communicate that problem, or at least the issue with the application, with the international coordinator, and I got that squared away so that I was going to be a sophomore when I was on the program, so it only made sense to me. But I was able to kind of get that issue out of the way just by emailing and sorting it out. So definitely feel free to reach out when you do have like questions, or if you run into like any eligibility requirement like concerns.
All right, so after making sure that when you're looking for a program and after making sure that you're going to be eligible up for it, the next thing you want to consider is your academics. So academics, every student is kind of going to be different in what they're looking for in this area. You can take classes for your major abroad, for a minor, for a certificate. If you just have gen eds that you want to take abroad, or maybe you just want to do elective courses. Maybe you're really interested in learning French, so you just want to go abroad and spend the semester in France and learn all about the French language and French culture. You can absolutely do that. So there are very many options on, your academics and what you are receiving credit for. Now, every course that you take abroad does count as equivalent ASU credit, and those grades do go towards your GPA. So make sure that the classes you're taking abroad, that you are staying on top of those, because they are going to show up on your transcript and they will count towards that cumulative GPA. If you are someone who really wants to study abroad directly in your major or your field of study, we do have study abroad by major guides on our website. So you can feel free to check those out, and those are going to have recommended programs to stick within your major and making sure that you are taking classes that directly relate to your major. Now, I will say that there's hundreds of majors at ASU, and we don't have a major guide for every single major yet. So don't worry if you don't see your major on those major guides. It doesn't mean that you can't study abroad. On our program search, you can search by area of study, and that will allow you to look up programs that are directly related to, your major, or maybe you're just interested in a different field of study and you want to look up programs that way. We do really recommend that as you are looking at academics and considering study abroad, that you do meet with your academic advisor. There is an academic advising form that you will have to get completed as part of your application process to say, that you have talked with your academic advisor and they're, making sure that you're going to stay on track to graduate in time. So reach out to your academic advisor as you're thinking about study abroad. If you haven't yet, that's a really good next step, is to schedule an appointment with them and talk through, when the best time for you to go abroad is. Are there classes that you absolutely have to take at ASU? Where do you have a little bit more flexibility? And they'll help guide you through that. And then just another note is you do remain a full-time ASU student when you are abroad, even if you're abroad for a full semester or even a year. And for those of you who are Barrett students, you do maintain honor status as well. So for academics, there's a lot of different moving pieces and questions to consider. And like I said, everyone is going to be different in this area. So one of the first things to think about is, what credits do you want to complete abroad? Is it for a major, for a minor, elective, or language? Are there predetermined ASU courses that you want to take abroad? So for example, our faculty directed programs, you earn credit for a very specific course. Or on our partnership and exchange programs, you're able to choose your own classes. So, do you want the class to already be chosen for you, or do you want to have a little bit more flexibility with that? Is there maybe a new area of study that you want to focus on during your program? Like I said, do you want to maybe study French or German while you're abroad, or maybe you want to study Spanish, or maybe you want to do an internship or research abroad that maybe doesn't directly correlate to your specific major courses, but it's something that you're interested in learning or experiencing in a new country. So a few other questions, really important is, do you want to take classes in English or in a foreign language? So majority of our programs do offer the ability for you to take classes in English, but maybe you're fluent in another foreign language, or you're learning a language and you want to take classes in that language. That's definitely a possibility, and you're just going to want to look for programs that are within that country of the language you want to learn. Also, would you prefer to take classes led by an ASU faculty member with other ASU students? That's going to be our ASU faculty directed programs. Or maybe you want to be able to take classes with a broader range of students. So local students, other international students from around the world, maybe even other American students, and having access to professional site on staff. Those are going to be our partnership programs, and those are very common for semester and year-long programs. Then our last program type is those exchange programs. Those are going to allow you to have a very independent experience while taking classes at a local university with local students and local faculty. So kind of based on, what classes you're looking to take, what you want your experience to look like when you're abroad is kind of, how you're going to guide yourself if you want to go on a faculty directed program, a partnership program, or have a little bit more independence and go on an exchange program.
And of course, with study abroad, location. So location is going to be absolutely super important when it comes to studying abroad. And some questions to consider are these are very important, because they'll kind of dictate where you're going to be for, I don't know, up to a year or 6 months or however long you're deciding to go. So definitely think about, do you have a specific culture, region, or country of interest? For example, when I was thinking about the program that I went to, I had just come back from a different high school exchange to Germany. So I was like, okay, I was just in Germany, but I want to take courses in computer science at the time. So I went through our program search tool, put in computer science, and the countries that it gave me examples of were either Germany or New Zealand. So I was like, well, I guess if I was just in Germany, I'll go to New Zealand. And so that's kind of how it worked for me. But it will definitely depend on what your situation is. But you can also think about the questions of do you want to stay in one location, or do you want to go, let's say, all around the world in 6 months? Because we do have options for that. We have semester at sea, where there's 20 or something different locations for you to stop at, or we have CIEE open block program, where you can choose up to 3 different locations to spend 6 weeks at a time. I wish I had known about those as well before I applied, because I think they're really cool and awesome. I mean, why wouldn't you want to go to 3 different parts of the world in 6 months? But then also think about, do you want to live in the rural area or metropolitan city? For me, I was lucky enough that my university was right on the border between the downtown metropolitan city and suburbia. Depending on which direction I went, up or down the hill, it was either down to the city or out to the farmland. So definitely keep in mind, and also don't be afraid to do some research. Because like when I chose my program and I got like my address of my house, I immediately went to Google Maps and tried to check out like, okay, what does my little neighborhood look like? What does like the surrounding environment look like? Definitely like feel free to check it out. We have tons of resources available. But these are definitely things to keep in mind, as like you'll be spending like a ton of your time there. So you don't want to like, you don't want to not enjoy wherever you're going.
Yeah, absolutely. Location is definitely really important. I know a lot of people, when they think about study abroad, they already have a country in mind. So another thing that I just wanted to point out with this is some countries are going to have a lot more programs than others. So for example, we have a lot of programs in the United Kingdom. We have a lot of programs in Spain. We have a lot of programs in Australia. Whereas some places, maybe you're looking to go to Japan or South Korea or Costa Rica. Some countries are going to have a little bit more limited programs and limited courses in what you can take academic-wise. So that's something to think about as well. How much flexibility do you have with your academics? And that might help guide you into deciding between a couple different locations.
Absolutely.
All right, so now timing. So how do you choose when to go abroad? So with the ASU Study Abroad Office, we do have over 300 programs in over 65 countries that range from 1 week to 1 year. So you can go on programs over spring break or winter break. We have summer programs, or you can go for a full semester or an entire year. Totally up to you and how study abroad fits into your schedule. So when thinking about timing, some things to consider are, of course, how much time do you want to go abroad? Is this something where you just want to go for a short-term program, or do you want to spend a full semester or a full year abroad? Of course, how much flexibility that you have with your course schedule is kind of going to help decide that. So for example, I'm not sure of the majors of everyone on here, but for example, many of our nursing students and engineering students can find it really difficult to go away for a full semester. So many of them will opt for those 1 week long or those summer programs. Whereas someone who's maybe an English major or a psychology major has a little bit more flexibility in their course plan. So it's a little easier for them to go abroad for a full semester or a full year. So definitely something, again, I wanted to bring this back to your academic advisor. Make sure that you're discussing the flexibility that you have in your courses with your academic advisor and working with them to really decide when the best time for you to go abroad is. Another thing is, do you have a specific term where you can go abroad, or is your schedule wide open? So again, for example, some students find that they can go abroad really easily their sophomore year, but junior and senior year, when you're getting into more of like those capstone classes and upper division courses, it might be a little bit more difficult for those students to go abroad later on in their academic career. So those are both two things to discuss with your academic advisor and really to think through. Like Jacob said, as a freshman, you can go abroad as early as spring break. So if you're a freshman now and you really want to go abroad next year, you can absolutely start looking at spring break programs for next semester, for summer programs, as well as fall 2021 programs if you're looking for more of a full semester. I will say usually the earlier you go abroad, so for example, especially for semester long, like Jacob did his sophomore year, you are going to have a little bit more flexibility in the classes you can take because you still have some of those gen eds and elective courses to complete. So it's not impossible. There's many students who go abroad, at the end of their junior or within their senior year. So it's absolutely possible. It just can be a little bit more challenging to choose, what courses you can take and that you'll be earning credit for. Just a few things to think about.
And of course, housing is something definitely to consider. So it's really important to set realistic expectations for yourself. And also don't be afraid to research what living in whatever country you're going to looks like. because the housing options will definitely vary by program. So for example, some of our students will stay in hotels for the duration of their summer programs, or they might be in a homestay with a local family, really immersing themselves in the culture. But it does depend on what sort of program they're looking into. For me, I was in a small single family home that was reclaimed by the university, and I was able to share it with 3 people from all across the world, including Paris, the Netherlands, and the UK. So that was really unique to my program, but I also had the option to be put in the dormitory as well. But it's just really important that you consider what you're going into. For example, a lot of my friends, including the U.S. students who were part of my partnership program, they didn't have dishwashers, so they had to wash all of their dishes by hand. And that was just a custom of the country that we were in. They don't have dishwashers everywhere or whatever. So it's really important to kind of keep in mind where you're going and what sort of expectations to have. And then the questions that you should consider for housing are, who would you like to live with? Do you want to live with other ASU students, other US students, or do you want to live with people from all across the country, or just local students, those other 18 to 22-year-olds who are just hanging out, going to school? And then also, do you want to arrange the housing yourself, or do you need some assistance, or would you like assistance as well? Because with our exchange programs, you could definitely get hands-on. You can do some apartment hunting wherever you're planning on going and kind of set up a lease that way, or you can coordinate with the university as well. There's definitely opportunities and options available. And then also, a lot of students do come into our office asking, oh, my family member has an apartment here. Can I use it while I'm abroad? Absolutely. If you do the planning ahead and carefully enough, you can definitely arrange something like that as well.
All right, so another really important thing obviously is going to be finances and cost. Now, we have a lot of links to different finances and cost in that resource document that I shared with you all in the chat. So as I'm referring to things on this slide, feel free to check out those, click on those links in that guide and check them out, or bookmark them and save it for later. So ASU students last year did receive over $1.4 million in scholarships, and that's just for study abroad programs. So there is lots of opportunities for funding out there. We do really recommend attending a Financing Your Study Abroad workshop, and those go into much more detail about applying for scholarships, using your financial aid, how to make a budget. Do you want to check out crowdsourcing and community funding and how you can kind of use that as well to fund your study abroad? So check out one of those workshops. They're offered every other Thursday afternoon, and those are going to be on our website as well. You can also search our website. We have a scholarship search. The Study Abroad office does offer grants and scholarships. Specific colleges and schools and departments throughout ASU also offer scholarships. So for example, the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences has a scholarship that's specifically for study abroad. WP Carey does. I think Fulton Schools of Engineering does. I know that the Department of Psychology does. So just check out your college and your department's website, and usually it's under like funding on your website, and you can search and see if they have any scholarships. And if you need a little bit of help with that, always check in with your academic advisor, because they're going to know a lot more about the specifics of scholarships for your college or department. Additional financial aid may be available. So many scholarships and different financial aid that you get from filling out the FAFSA can actually be applied towards study abroad programs. So those usually, unfortunately, a lot of that financial aid doesn't apply on summer programs, so that's something to keep in mind. But typically it does apply on semester programs. So just like you're here in the fall and the spring semesters using your scholarships and financial aid to study at ASU, you can take that financial aid and use that when you study abroad at a university in another country. So that's really cool. Another thing you can do as well is, if you are going abroad, you can ask the financial aid to reevaluate your package. So if you're going to have a higher cost of living, maybe because you're going to London or Australia than you do here in Arizona, they might be able to increase your financial aid. We also have a low-cost program guide, and these are going to be for our semester programs. We have a lot of programs that are going to be either less than a semester at ASU, about the same as a semester at ASU, or around $1,000 more than a semester at ASU. So check out those programs. Those usually on that low-cost program guide, they're very affordable because they're very comparable to what you're already spending for a semester here at ASU. So lots of questions to consider when thinking about finances and costs for a study abroad program. And obviously one of those first ones that's really important is, can you use your current scholarship grants, tuition waivers, financial aid during a study abroad program? We also have a guide for that I linked to on our website, so you can check out the different programs and what you can use your financial aid for. And like I said, a lot of that is going to apply on semester programs. Also, how much does a semester abroad cost in comparison to a semester at ASU? Check out that low-cost semester program guide. And also, like I mentioned, if you do have federal or state financial aid, so that might be Pell Grants, that might be student loans, that could be other sources of aid that you get from your FAFSA. Make sure you submit a cost sheet so that they can reassess your financial aid and if you can get additional funding. Another question is, how much effort do you plan to put into searching and applying for scholarships? Is this something where, you know, scholarships are really important to you? Then make sure you're going to put in a lot of time to research them and spend time applying for them. And maybe, you know, you already have some money saved up and you've been planning for this, you know, since high school and you've been saving up for it. Then maybe you don't have to spend as much time on scholarships. Another question we usually get is, can you receive more than one scholarship? And the answer is absolutely. So we recommend applying for as many scholarships as possible, and you can keep on stacking those. And you know what, maybe you get enough scholarships that your entire study abroad is covered, and then sometimes students will get an extra one and they'll just have a little bit more spending money in their back pocket for, you know, maybe they want to travel on the weekend while they're abroad, or, you know, maybe they need some extra money for food if you want to eat out a little bit more. Make sure also brainstorming community-based funding ideas. So we have some resources on how to do that on our website as well. We've had students that have had a lot of success with this. So this is especially important to start planning early. So maybe you're a freshman or a sophomore now and you plan to go abroad in the next year or two. Start a crowdsource or community-based fund now, and something that you can ask your family and your friends to donate to. Maybe instead of buying you a birthday present or a Christmas present or, you know, a Hanukkah gift, maybe that you ask them to donate to this fund instead. Another thing to consider is, do you pay in-state or out-of-state tuition? So sometimes program costs will vary. For many of our out-of-state students, semester programs may actually be more affordable for you than a semester at ASU. So there's lots of semester programs that are actually going to cost less than what you're paying in out-of-state tuition. And then of course, budgeting is also very important. So make sure that you're thinking about budgeting now. Really, with finances and costs, the earlier you start planning, the earlier you start budgeting and applying for scholarships and having a plan, the more success you're going to have in finding those funding options.
Definitely. So the next thing we'll talk about are special circumstances. We know that our students come from a variety of different backgrounds, like anywhere, like new, old, pick a background. And we also have this list here. These are just examples of specific dedicated resources that we have available on our website. because as an office, we're dedicated to keeping an open mind and open arms in terms of sending students abroad. So if you do fall into any of these categories, feel free to reach out if you have any questions, or just take a look through what other questions people have had on our website and how we can accommodate for them. Most commonly will be like those first generation or freshman students, as well as ASCAP scholars or online students. And we do have specific resources available, and we will do our best as an office to send you abroad in like the best way possible. So never be like, don't feel discouraged if you do fall under like any category where you're like, oh, I don't think I could go abroad because of this or this. We do have, or we'll try our best, and we'll definitely have some resources available. So some questions to consider about special circumstances. Are there any special circumstances that you have that need to be accounted for? Any like health, safety, disability accommodations that you need? We have we've actually had a student in the past with a mobility impairment who was really concerned about going abroad, but we were actually able to send them abroad to the Netherlands, where they're like very like conscious of people with mobility impairments. So she was able to have like the best time, even though she was, but anyways, you also have to consider the social climate and the laws and the norms. So especially for our LGBTQIA+ students, there are still countries in this world that aren't fans of that, and it can actually be dangerous for you if you go abroad to certain places. So definitely keep in mind, do your research, and also feel free to reach out if you do have any special circumstances that you would like to bring up. Our international coordinators will do their absolute best to make sure that you are informed, as well as aware of what places are the best options for you, as well as what might not be the best options for you. The next thing that we'll talk about is following us on social media. It's a really great way to keep up to date with everything that we're doing as an office, as well as to stay informed on what our students are up to. The best ways to do that are definitely our Instagram and Facebook. Just the other week, I was doing a Q&A session on the Instagram. It was a lot of fun to just interact with students, answer any questions that they had. So it's really fun. It's super like personal or whatever. As well as our YouTube, we update it all the time with different informational videos or presentations that you could use as resources, as well as our WordPress. That's actually one of my favorite things to talk about because it's all student blogs. They're just written by students, curated by us. But it's a great way to kind of peek into the minds of students and what they got up to while abroad. And the topics cover so many different things, from like the challenges of veganism abroad to like my top 10 favorite gelato places in Rome or something. So definitely feel free to check those out if you're interested in like more student stories. And then if all of that is like way too boring, feel free to check out our upcoming events as well. We do have Study Abroad 101 sessions weekly, as well as Financing Your Study Abroad workshops bi-weekly on every other Thursday. You've already attended this awesome like workshop with us, so you're already a step ahead. And then the next things you could do are attend our virtual Study Abroad Expo this year, as well as meet with your academic advisor or shoot an email out to the international coordinator of any programs that you're interested in. Any way that you can stay ahead is going to work the best. Or feel free to live chat with us on our website. We've got peer advisors working from home, happy to answer any questions that you have. And then, of course, the best place I'd like to say is going to be our website. It's going to be the best resource for all of the programs that we have to offer. Any questions that you have, you can like feel free to shoot them in on our website as well, or like dig for the answers yourself. That's fine too. And then, yeah, after this, feel free to attend one of our Financing Your Study Abroad workshops and have a chat with us. We're always happy to talk or help you find a program. That's what we're here for. Lindsay?
Yeah. All right. Well, that's the end of our workshop today. But now definitely want to open it up to questions. So y'all have been really quiet in the chat. So let us know if you have any questions. Keep them coming in. We're here to answer those and help you out. So while we're waiting for some questions to come in, Oh, I think we just got one. Looks like summer 2021 programs will be available in a couple weeks. Is that true? The answer is it depends. So our summer 2021 programs don't all open at the same time. There is going to be some that are going to start opening very soon, and there's going to be others that probably won't open until January. So if you do see a program that you're interested in and the application is not open yet, just bookmark it. Many of the programs, and I know they're working really hard to get this on all of the programs, there's going to be a link where you can sign up to save the program and then receive updates when it is open for applications. So unfortunately, I don't have a firm date when all of those summer programs are going to be opening, but some of them will start opening soon. So for spring 2021 programs, is it too late to apply? So actually the answer is no, but that application deadline is coming up very quickly, September 25th. So that's gonna be next week on Friday. So if you're interested in going abroad in the spring semester 2021, that deadline is coming up very quickly. It is not too late to apply, but I do recommend getting on that as soon as possible. If you're looking at like spring break programs, that deadline, you still have a little bit more time. That will be November 15th. Okay, so one question, where can I see the classes that are available in the program you're interested in? That is a good question, and I am going to pull up our website and I will show you how to look for classes. So if you go onto our website, under the search and apply for a program, we'll search for a program, let's see. We'll search for a program in, so when you find a program you're interested in, so for example, our faculty directed programs are going to be a little bit more straightforward. They're going to already have the classes posted, the ASU classes that you're going to earn credit for, and that is going to be under courses and faculty. So there you'll see exactly the course that you'll register for and what you'll receive credit for. Some of the other ones that are going to be a little bit more challenging and you have to do a little bit more digging for these programs are going to be those partnership and exchange programs. So for example, we'll click on our CIEE Open Campus program. You can click here under View Pre-Approved Courses. Now, pre-approved courses are going to be courses that students have taken abroad and received ASU credit for already. So this is not by any means a full list of the classes you can take abroad. These are just ones that are already pre-approved, that already have linked up with ASU credit because students have done them before. So you can look in here and you can see the different, so to view the spring 2020 course matrix, click here and you can look at all of those classes. And then you also can look under the academics tab, and there will be more information about the courses in there. So look for that academics tab or the courses and faculty tab to find those classes that you can take on your program. So what will happen if a program gets canceled? And I assume that you're asking this in relation to COVID. So if a study abroad program is canceled by our office, you do receive a full refund of, even up to your application fee. Or if you want to go abroad and possibly are open to going to a different country instead, then your international coordinator would work with you to transfer you into a program that isn't being canceled. The international coordinators, as you start applying for a program, just send them an email, make an appointment with them, and they're gonna have a lot more information for you because, like I said, every country is different right now on, who's allowing travelers to come in, what countries are safe, what aren't. So just work with your international coordinator on that. But if a program is canceled, then you do receive a refund of all the fees or anything that you had paid for that program. In the case of international students, can you go to their home countries if a program is available in that country? Yep, absolutely. And that would actually make it really easy for you because you wouldn't need to get another visa to go there. So yeah, if you're an international student and you want to go study for a semester in your home country, you can definitely do that. Do you have to be a full-time student in order to study abroad? Nope, you do not have to. So as long as you are enrolled at ASU and are in some sort of degree-seeking program, so whether that's maybe you're getting an undergraduate degree, a graduate degree, or maybe you're just getting a certificate or you're just working on a minor, as long as you are enrolled at ASU, you do not have to be a full-time student in order to study abroad. Usually full-time students will receive a little bit more in financial aid. So that's just something to keep in mind. But if you're comfortable with where you are, then no, you don't have to be a full-time student to go abroad. What does a study abroad application consist of? Well, again, my answer to that is it depends because different programs are going to have different applications. So for our faculty directed programs, those are going to be pretty straightforward. You're just going to be applying for the program. Some of them might include an essay depending on if it's more of a competitive program or not. But then some of them, like our partnership and exchange programs, are going to be a little bit more intense. So for exchange programs, that application, you do have to apply through our office, but then you also have to apply at the university that you're going abroad to. Now for partnership programs, I'll let Jacob share what his application experience was like with that one.
Yeah, for my partnership application, there was there were multiple different steps. There was like the ASU side, and then there's like the partnership side. So the ASU side was really straightforward. It was kind of just like the acknowledgement of application, as well as a couple course setting documents, as well as like, oh, you've met with your academic advisor and you know what you're kind of getting into. Whereas the ISA side, they were able to help me walk through the visa orientation process. So they said, hey, this is how you establish a visa with New Zealand. You should feel free to go ahead and do this. And they actually set up their own application deadline as well. So there were kind of two little processes that I had to manage, one for ISA and one for ASU. And they were able to also streamline the course selection process. So it was all through ISA as well. So they were like, hey, here's the course catalog at Vic Uni. These are the courses that you have to choose from. Feel free to pick it out that way. And they helped me they also helped me set up like the other version of like my ASU for the other university. So in terms of partnership programs, they offer a lot of resources along the way, regardless of whether or not it's establishing housing, a visa, courses, and also like additional resources while you're over there. Because when I showed up for my program, actually, I had no furniture in my house, but I was able to correspond with ISA and I was like, hey, I have no furniture. Can you help me out? And they had like a direct line right into the university. So I didn't have to like wait in line with other students and stuff like that. So the partnership programs can definitely offer guidance and support along the way as well, if that's something you're interested in.
Another question about how do we get a visa for study abroad? Again, that is going to depend on the program you're going on and the country you're going to. So many of our faculty directed programs, those are going to be shorter term. So for summer, for a week or two, those actually are not going to require a visa. You're just going to need a passport and then you're just a tourist. So you don't necessarily need a visa for those. Now for the semester programs, or if you plan on going for longer than a semester, it's going to depend on the program. So like Jacob said, with his partnership program, they helped guide him through the process of getting a visa in New Zealand. For the exchange programs, getting that visa is really up to you. So the international coordinator of that program will help guide you and give you some information about how to get a visa started. But for those exchange programs, you are required to complete that visa process yourself. And what that looks like, it's going to be different for every country. Some countries it's really easy to get a visa for. Others, it takes a little while longer. So you got to make sure that you are applying ahead of time for that. If it's a specific country you're interested in and you want to learn more about what it takes to get a visa to study abroad in that country for a semester or for a year, reach out to the international coordinator and they'll have more specific information for you. Are there programs available for just winter break? So yes, we do have programs that go in over winter break. So whether that's the end of December or the beginning of January before the semester starts. I will say for this year, for 2020, we really are not offering very many winter break programs. There might be one or two, but just with COVID, we're not planning to send students abroad that early. So I would look more at spring break programs or start thinking ahead for winter break 2021. Case of a long-term program abroad, can we cancel our on-campus housing at ASU? That's a tough one. So housing at ASU can be a little challenging, and it's also going to depend on where you're staying. Make sure that you reach out to whoever your contact is for housing and let them know that you're going abroad. It's not always guaranteed, but reach out to them and see what the process is for canceling housing. I know it can be especially challenging too for those of you who maybe live off campus. We really recommend that if you're off campus and you're in an apartment lease, that you sublease your apartment or that you get a short-term apartment lease just for the semester that you're going to be here. So just make sure, because I know that when you do cancel your on-campus housing, that there usually are cancellation fees because it is breaking a contract. So just make sure specifically that you reach out to whoever your contact is in your on-campus housing and ask specifically what that would entail. And no, there is not a limit to how many times you can study abroad. So I know that Jacob was actually going to study abroad on a second program this past summer that unfortunately got canceled due to COVID, but Jacob had another coworker who she studied abroad 3 times. Mm-hmm. As long as you are staying on track to graduate and working out your schedule with your academic advisor, you can study abroad as many times as you want. Good questions, everyone. Is it possible to extend your program? So it is possible for partnership and exchange programs. So faculty-directed programs have a set amount of time. But so for example, when I was in undergrad, I studied abroad on a summer faculty-directed program. But once my program ended, I stayed and I backpacked around Europe for another month. Now for partnership and exchange programs, it is possible, but you still do have to meet all of those application deadlines. So say, for example, you go abroad in next fall, so fall 2021, and you just love your program and you want to stay for a year instead of a semester, you still have to meet that September 25th application deadline and apply again for your program. But yes, that has happened. There have been many cases of students that are planning on staying abroad for a semester, and then they get there and they love it so much that they want to extend it for a year, or sometimes we've even had students extend it for up to 3 semesters. And yes, it is possible to get an internship while studying abroad. We do have internship programs. So if you do want to intern while you are abroad, I highly recommend checking out those internship programs. Typically, you're not going to be able to go on a study abroad program and then find an internship or a part-time job while you're there. And that has to do with visa requirements. It's really easy to get student visas for most places, but for you actually to get a work visa is a whole nother process and can be very challenging. So if you're interested in doing an internship abroad, go on our program search here. Under internships available, select yes, and then you can search for all of those programs that do offer internship opportunities. So you can see that there's a lot of different programs here in a lot of different locations that offer internships. So if the credit for the abroad program, so there's a study abroad program, is less than required in our majors, do we have to make up for that, or how is it added to our transcripts? So when you So I'm trying to understand the question, but is less than required for your majors. So you're going to want to work with your academic advisor and your international coordinator to make sure that you're taking the right classes and that you are receiving the right credit. But when you take a course abroad, so say you're going for a semester program and you earn credit for a specific course at that university, it does come back to your transcript and apply towards your major, whatever classes you do take, as ASU credit. So, but with that being said, is you still do have a specific number of classes and specific courses that you have to take towards your major. So if you don't take those abroad, say maybe you're doing electives abroad, or maybe you're focusing on your minor, then yes, you will have to make sure that you're completing all your major courses here at ASU. Internships are going to be unpaid. They are going to count as courses. So again, you can't really have paid internships or paid work abroad, because that's just a whole nother issue with visas. But those internships, you do earn course credit. And I know that for some students, there's very many majors out there that do require you to complete an internship. So many students will choose on those required internships to participate in a study abroad internship. If you study abroad for a semester, is it possible to visit back home if it doesn't affect your course? Yeah, I mean, if you want to, if you have, say, maybe a spring break at your university abroad and you want to come visit back home, then yeah, you can do that. That freedom is up to you. I will say that I guarantee once you do go abroad that it's going to go by so fast that you probably won't even think about visiting back home. I'm sure Jacob can share a little bit more about that, and I'll let him. But yeah, if that's something that you wanted to do, then you could.
Yeah, and just to jump off of that, I actually had a lot of friends who were like initially thinking about that. They were like, "Oh, we had this like month-long break in between like classes ending and finals starting for studying," and people were considering like going back home or going somewhere else. But depending on where you are, it actually might be more valuable to go like kind of like extend your trip somewhere else. Like I had a lot of my friends who flew from New Zealand to like Fiji or to Bali and just like hung out in like that region of the world. Or they had their friends come out and meet them somewhere. If it wasn't right to the location where you were studying abroad, they would have friends come out and meet them instead of going back home. It was just like a really great way to kind of extend your trip or enhance it a little bit with those, with that like extra free time that you'll have along the way. I'm looking at the questions. Are flights covered by financial aid or scholarships, or do you have to pay for them out of pocket? Typically, those will be an out-of-pocket cost. However, depending on what sort of financial aid you are receiving, it might be applicable towards the cost of flights, depending on what your financial aid qualifies for.
And many scholarships will allow you to apply that towards flights. Now, one thing I know, we didn't mention this in the presentation, but every program has a program fee. So that's however much the program costs. And that is typically, it's going to include your housing in most cases, except for exchange programs. It's going to include your tuition, your program cost, but that does not include your flight. So that is something to think of when you're looking at the program fees, is your flight over to that country is additional. As well as the question about, do internship programs provide free housing? So housing isn't free, but it is included as part of your program fee. So for example, I'll just share one of these with you. So this is going to be an internship and study abroad program in Beijing. I'm not sure if we'll have the cost. So this was the program fee for summer 2020. And you can see this program fee included your tuition for 6 credits, for your housing, for orientation, for site visits, for your internship, and your visa services, as well as your health insurance. But then it also shows here what is not included. So student fees, airfare, your passport you have to get separately, meals. Now, meals are going to depend. Some programs will include some meals or a certain amount of meals. So just make sure that you're checking your program fee to see what is and isn't included. All right, well, we have about 5 minutes left. You all have had really good questions today. So we'll stick around for a few more minutes if there's any other questions. If not, you all are free to head out. And if any questions do come up, like Jacob said, feel free to contact us, reach out to us. We're doing all virtual advising right now. So reach out to us and we're happy to help.
There's a question about, can online students apply for programs? Absolutely. As long as you do meet the requirements that are stated on the program brochure page, you feel free to apply to any program that you have your mind set on.
Yep, all of our programs are open to online students.